Today we're looking at Unity. So today in Unity, what we're going to be looking at is the instantiation of a prefabricated object on a quaternion identity. Now there's four quite big words there: instantiation, prefabricated, quaternion identity. That's two words, I suppose. So don't be put off by the names though. I'll show you straight away what we're talking about. We're going straight into our scene here with our fenced panel garden in this scene. And what my garden needs is some flowers. So if I walk along and click, you'll see some clones appearing in the hierarchy on the left. And there we go. I've generated some, well, cacti-esque budding flowers by the look of it. So I'm sure you want to know exactly how we do this, but slow down, friend. There's some things we need to look at first. Now, the first thing you need to do at the bottom is actually have the prefabricated object ready. So if we right-click and create a prefab, here is where we could drag on our new prefabricated object. So I'm just going to call this flower 2 for the example. And let's say I had a flower in my scene. We can just drag it straight on here, and our prefab is done, as you can see at the bottom right. So we've done prefabs before, so I'm not spending too long on that. You just need to have it ready in this tutorial. So if we look at our first-person controller, you can see that I've added a new script called the instance script. Now this is the C# script that's going to be handling all of our instantiation purposes in this tutorial. You'll see it here at the bottom in the assets, and you'll see there already has the script running so I could demonstrate, but what we're going to do is just delete the script and I'll build it up one by one. No peeking. So I'm going to split this into 3 sections that we need to do in pseudocode comments. The first thing we need to do is declare a public transform. You know by now that a transform is a public variable that actually holds the information regarding the X, Y, and Z on position, scale, and rotation variables. Now this is what accepts a prefabricated drop in Unity, which I'll demonstrate momentarily. Next, we need an if statement. And our if statement is going to be checking if the mouse is clicked. Now, this isn't essential to the instantiation part. This is for this example only. Now, instantiations can be used in any sort of C# environment, whether it be an interaction with an opponent, any sort of event on a keyboard or a mouse, or a time delay. Your imagination is your limit here. So I'm putting a condition in for this, which I'll show you shortly. And then we have the big line. What we need to do here is instantiate the prefab. So let's start off at the top by adding a public transform. Now I'm going to create a public transform. Now it's going to be public, so we can access it in the inspector. It's of a transform variety, so we can drag a prefab. Now we just need to give the variable a placeholder name. It makes sense in this tutorial to call it flower. Any reference I do to the rest of this transform node in the rest of the script must be called via this handle name. The next line I want to add is the if statement, if mouse is clicked. Now, you've done if statements all through the previous year of study and previous semester of study, so hopefully this makes perfect sense. I'm going to create an if. My condition in this case is going to be input dot get mouse button down. Now we have 2 options here of get mouse button down or get mouse button. Get mouse button will check as long as the mouse button is held down. In this instance, that would cause many characters, cacti, to be instantiated whilst the button is down. So get mouse button down only registers the initial down element, which is what we want, only one at a time. So we have 3 options here. We have an integer for a button. 0 is your left click, 1 is your right click, 2 is the scroll wheel click. We're going to go with 0 and a left click just for standardize. So we've opened our condition here. So what do we want to happen if we actually click the mouse button? So first things first, let's just throw a debug.log into the script that says test. Now we're going to go back to the Unity menu, and you'll see in our first person controller, when it selects, there we go, that we need to drag flower over here. You'll see that mine's already there because we've just edited what was a completed script. But I'll drag the new instance there and it's updated. So our script instance and our flower place handler with the flower prefabricated object here. All our script is going to currently do at the moment is run that debug.log. So when I click at the bottom, you can see on our console, we have a test. So we know so far it works. Remember to test little and test often. So we can remove that line now we know it works, and we need to instantiate the prefab. Now, when we type the word instantiate, you can see the Unity starts to give us the completed word, and we need to open brackets. Now, if we look here, it wants the original object, the vector3 position, and here the quaternion dot rotation, which is where we're going to focus. So the object that we want is a flower. The position, we can just use transform dot position because that will reference the parent object, in this case the player, and it will spawn at the player's position. Now it's asking for a quaternion rotation. Now we have quite a few different ways we can do this. We can use vector3.up on the y-axis, vector3.left, right, down, across, many different variations. But what we're looking at is the quaternion. Now if we start typing, you'll see it here, dot identity. So what we have now, instantiation of flower at our position on the default identity rotation variable. So that's what quaternion.identity means. It's the default rotation of the object. So all these big words, instantiations of transformed oppositions and quaternions and identities, essentially are instantiating the prefab with a position and a rotation variable. I'm just going to tidy up my empty lines here. Close our brackets. There we go. We are good to go. What you'll see now, when we go back to our scene, our stupid, rubbish-looking garden can soon become a Chelsea Flower Show standard lovely delight just by going along, clicking. Perfect.